Well, they just said that the surgery was over and we're going to go in and talk to the doctor.
She definitely had a big tear. I think we knew that ahead of time. I don't know if you all saw that.
You had what?
No,
A big tear of a rotator cuff. Did she talk to you about it? Did she tell you?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
So I'll show you on here so it makes a little bit more sense. The first thing is that the rotator cuff, if you're familiar with it, it's a set of muscles. There's actually 4 muscles that make up the rotator cuff. And the muscles come like this, and then every muscle has to turn into tendon before it attaches to the bone. So this used to be a great model of this rubber stuff coming out here like this and attaching to the bone like that. Unfortunately, it tore and then someone took it. We don't even know who took it. But the idea is, if you imagine if from here there was muscle and tendon coming out like this and attaching to the bone right there, so it would look something like this, like that. Hers has been rubbed by some bone spurs up here for a while. And actually, you know, her bone spurs weren't big, but they were angled like this, and they were quite pointy. I mean, literally, when we have her open and you put your finger underneath there, and it hurt. I mean, it hurt your finger to try to slide it underneath there. But anyway, what happens is that you raise your arm up like this, and you pinch that poor tendon between the bone here and your humeral head right there.
Ouch.
And you do that over time, and it's going to tear. Now, the tearing in general, there's two main ways that it can tear. One of them is that it wears a hole, and if this is attached to the bone like this, it wears a hole, and then it starts to pull away, and it's separated like this. Sometimes it can do something like this. It wears a hole, starts to pull away, and it splits. Well, the advantage for her is that her tear was actually bigger than 6 centimeters in terms of the entire tear, which is a very large tear. But the good news is a portion of it was a split like this, so you can suture that part back together like this, side to side, which means then the effective tear after that, getting it back to bone, isn't as hard. Whereas some people, if the whole thing is torn like this and shredded back like this, you're going back to here and you're really fighting to get it back to where it wants to go. Now, so we were able to pull hers back and then reattach it to the bone with a few anchors. The other thing, though, she also had is this groove right here is a groove that your biceps tendon runs in. And she's obviously been rubbing that as well. And she's shredded that pretty good. Wow. But she had enough left that we were able to, if you think of it kind of like this being kind of like that, it was kind of shredded with little pieces. If this is the core, we're cutting through it like and looking straight like this. We were able to kind of bring those together and suture them together, and it looked pretty strong after that. It actually glides in this groove normally, and we're able to pull it through that groove afterwards, and it looks stable. Now, it's possible that over time that might fail, but I felt like there was good enough tissue there to go ahead and repair it and just keep our fingers crossed. Again, I think it has a good chance of doing well. If it didn't, or if it tore later, sometimes they tear off. You might know someone that's had a bite like this, they get a bump there. Has anyone ever met anyone like that? And it's something where if it's painful, you can go back in and do something to it. Or sometimes, many times, just after a few weeks, it doesn't really hurt anymore. You just have a little bit of sag there, and you might lose anywhere from 10 to 30% of your strength, but you still have the other attachment for your biceps coming from over here. And people don't really notice a big fall off, and so it might not be anything that gives her trouble in the future, but if it does, if it were to rupture, it's not always something that has to be taken care of either. So, but I felt like it was reasonable to try to save it. It seemed like a good enough tissue to do that.
Did you file down that rough pitch of bones?
Actually, we did. We actually take it out.
Oh,
so we literally shave it off and then smooth the undersurface, and you can feel it with your finger as well.
That's
so
keep it from happening again.
Yeah, you know, in fact, sometimes we'll tell people that if you just took away that bone spur and shaved that region and made that space larger, that alone gives people a lot of pain relief. But you got to fix the rotator cuff too, obviously. But yeah, lots of times that's the one that should really get all the credit for the pain relief.
Alrighty.
Am I being filmed?
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't
Is that all right?
check my hair.
No, she's going to want to hear this.
She's going to want to hear every word of it.
Now show her your guns.
No need to be embarrassed.
Oh my goodness.
That is really wonderful news, and we're so grateful.
Well, good. I think that she has a great chance of doing well. So we'll just watch her close. Of course, the rehab is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rehab is a big deal. It'll be a
Maybe she
long
can
haul.
Do
Well,
rehab over
yeah,
that place.
it
Like
will.
months before
What?
she's really pain
It
free.
really, yeah, that's right.
Mm.
Usually what happens is most people, even when they're really doing well, at the end of a long day, they'll talk to them still. You know, it will. Like,
He really sent the girls too, but he really sent him because I
We were glad to see you.
Have you ever met Zig Ziglar?
Who's that?
that rings a bell.
He's Zig Ziglar. You can shake his hand. Then you can tell people that you
You
met
mean
him.
from football?
No. Motivational speaker.
You're really? Yes, I have.
Yeah,
I
I've
didn't
been a
realize
long
that.
time.
Sorry.
You've already put big old tears in my eyes. Must you throw dirt in my face?
She did good now.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
She's Dad's editor.
Wow.
And stage sidekick.
Yeah. They're a team.
Well,
But he died in the process. But the fact of it is, we know we probably can paint a case where there's genome fairness, and there was no limit to the family member in this case. And the story is the type of fairness.
And we know who's got control.
Yeah, you did. See, here, this is hers.
That's what I use on the horses, Velcro.
Oh, yeah.
Vet wrap.
There you go.
It's almost Christmassy.
Mm-hmm.
Christmassy.
See, she's got a big.
Maybe you could autograph it.
Somebody's rocking out
How
over
you
there.
feel?
She looks great, doesn't she?
It's just kind of achy.
Are you awake?
Yeah, but they've been keeping it subdued.
I'm gonna give her a dose of